One mistake is ruining your piano technique and making it impossible to progress as quickly as you want to. And this mistake is so common that I've seen it in almost every beginner pianist I've ever taught. Hi, I'm Megan and I'm a piano teacher. And on my channel, I share tips, tricks, and tutorials every single week. So what is this mistake that so many beginner pianists are making? I'm going to show you 2 clips. See if you can spot the difference and identify which one is showing way better piano technique. Hopefully you spotted that the bench distance was the biggest difference between the 2 clips. In clip number 1, I was sitting way too close to the piano, causing all kinds of technical issues that we'll talk about in this video. And by the end of just that first page of the piece, I was already feeling a lot of tension in my forearms. In the second clip, I was sitting at my personal ideal bench distance, which we'll discuss how to find in this video, and it felt so much more comfortable and natural to me, and by the end of the first page, completely tension and discomfort free. Now, be totally honest. Did you notice that I was sitting too close in clip number 1 before you saw clip number 2? If you did, big round of applause, big props to you. And if you didn't, that is completely normal and understandable. I would say that most beginner pianists and even intermediate and advanced self-taught pianists have no clue how much bench distance affects your technique and your overall playing. So let's dive into exactly how bench distance impacts our playing, and most importantly, how to find the perfect bench distance for you. One of the simplest techniques for determining your ideal bench distance is what I call the Superman technique. Place your arms straight out in front of you with closed fists, like Superman flying through the air, and your fists should fall right above the piano keys, either a little bit closer to the fall board or around the middle of the key. When you place your hands on the piano after finding this ideal distance, your elbows should come out just in front of your rib cage. Another consideration is how you're sitting on the bench itself. I'm quite short, so I naturally sit closer to the front edge of the bench, and this is considered pretty ideal. When you sit closer to the front edge rather than having your thighs fully on the bench, it gives you a little bit more mobility and helps you to avoid scooting around or sliding around on the piano bench when you're reaching for the high and low registers of the piano. When in doubt, just remember that T-Rexes are no good at piano. If you're interested in totally nerding out on the topic of posture at the piano, I would recommend checking out the life and work of Dorothy Taubman. Taubman was a pianist and teacher and founder of the eponymous Taubman technique, which helped to rehab pianists who had experienced injuries from playing and help prevent repetitive strain injuries in high-level pianists. Her approach also emphasizes the use of tools like pedal extenders and adjustable height benches for young pianists to help set them up with correct technique from the very beginning. While there are a whole slew of issues that can arise from improper posture at the piano, all the way from mild discomfort to severe carpal tunnel, here are a few of the most common concerns for beginner and intermediate pianists. Firstly, many beginner pieces are in middle C position, where both thumbs are close to or sharing middle C. Both hands being close together plus sitting too close to the piano is a recipe for tension. As we get into more challenging repertoire, we may encounter pieces with hand crossing. This can be uncomfortable or even impossible when seated too close to the keys. Sitting back a proper distance will make hand crossing more comfortable and more accurate. For all pianists, but especially those with smaller hands, passages involving octaves, arpeggios, or very quick scales can cause a lot of tension. Our posture at the piano can either alleviate or exacerbate this tension, so make sure you're not making these already difficult passages more challenging. Finally, and I actually don't think I've ever heard any other pianist discuss this tip, when we sit too close to the piano keys, we're not really able to use our peripheral vision to see our hands and have to instead look back and forth from our music to our hands, possibly causing you to lose your place when sight reading. In addition to all the technical benefits of proper bench distance, it also allows us to better use our peripheral vision to check in on our hands when sight reading and more seamlessly shift between looking at our music and looking at the keys. Interestingly, there are some famous examples of very well-known and successful pianists who take this advice and toss it out with the garbage. Glenn Gould, for example, famously had very unique posture when playing the piano, sitting very low and close to the keys and hunching towards the piano. While Gould was one of the most brilliant pianists of his generation, he did struggle terribly with pain, injury, and tinnitus, likely partially a result of his posture. Other pianists may also have postural idiosyncrasies that aren't as noticeable. In this clip, we see one of my favorite pianists, Ivo Pogorelic, sitting rather close to the keys, but also quite high. Considering he is well into his 60s and still maintaining a successful concert career, whatever it is he is doing is clearly working for him. One of the most famous and heralded pianists of her generation, Marta Argerich, tends to sit at a moderate distance from the piano. Similarly to Pogorelic, her longevity as an immensely successful pianist speaks to the efficacy of her technique, including her posture. Another of my favorite pianists, Evgeny Kissin, is seen here sitting quite far from the keys, which is my personal preference, although we've seen other approaches can work. Remember that your posture at the piano is only one facet of your overall technique, and while changing your bench distance may make a noticeable difference for you, it's probably not going to take you from playing Mary Had a Little Lamb to Rock 2 overnight, although if it does, please leave me a comment. I would love to hear about that. But posture can have more profound effects than you might think. One final anecdote about bench distance from a real life story that happened to me. When I was an undergraduate piano performance major, my best friend was a vocal performance major, and all of the non-pianist music majors had to take basic piano class. One evening, my friend asked me to help her out with one of her piano pieces. She was struggling so much and just couldn't get this piece prepared for her upcoming quiz. The piece required her to play with both hands together. As we know, that's a tall order for beginner pianists. And it had the melody in the right hand and chords in the left hand. And she swore to me that she just could not get the hands put together. So I asked her to show me the piece and show me how she was playing it. And she sat down at the piano, and I think her torso was literally touching the front of the keys. So I told her to stand up. I moved the bench back probably 2 feet. And of course, she was very apprehensive when she sat down and was like, "This feels really weird. I don't know if I feel comfortable sitting quite this far away from the piano." But I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say she tried the piece maybe 2 more times at that bench distance, and all of a sudden everything kind of came together and she could play the piece perfectly within just a few minutes. And truly the only thing that we changed was how far away from the piano she was. This was obviously a bit of an extreme scenario. She was sitting way too close, but just that one change took her from a failing quiz to an A+. So the moral of the story is not to underestimate how much your posture, and a part of that being your bench distance at the piano, may be affecting your overall technique. And don't give up if it feels uncomfortable at first. That's probably the #1 piece of feedback that I get from students when I tell them to adjust their bench distance, is that it feels really weird and almost uncomfortable at first. And that's probably just because it's different, not because it doesn't work for you. That's all for this week, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Let me know in the comments if you try adjusting your bench distance and your posture at the piano this week, how it works for you, and also share with me what you're practicing. See you next time, and happy playing!